The average American spends 90% of your life indoors, 90%. And that wasn't the way our ancestors grew up, nor I think how God created our society, is for us to be indoors that much and then have fake lights, fluorescent lights.
Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
In a world where Big Pharma writes the script, it's time to believe. Biohack. Become.
We're here to explore the truth about healing that exists outside the broken medical system, give you the knowledge, the community, and the strategies you need to become the hero of your own health story.
Your guide is a biohacking entrepreneur, a near-death survivor, and a cancer warrior navigating his own healing journey. Founder of Biohackingville, Exodus Strong, and QE Strong. Your host, Rob René. This is Biohackingville, where the medical system has failed us. One man is leading the rebellion to reclaim.
Your great-grandparents healed faster than you do. Their wounds closed faster. Their bones knit faster. They had less information, better sleep, and their mitochondria, the engines inside the cells of their bodies, were producing more energy than yours. And the reason has almost nothing to do with the food, the water, or their stress levels. Those are the things you would think that make a difference. But it has to do with a nutrient you can't eat, a nutrient you cannot drink, and a nutrient you can only absorb. And without it, your cells are starving, and you didn't even know it. Welcome to the Biohackingville podcast. We're talking about an exciting thing today, and I'm just stoked about this topic. And guess what? It's a topic about light. It's the particle that God created first. God created light. And red light therapy is amazing. I'm getting red light therapy treatment just with this incredible hat. But that's how we have to operate today. We have to take what God designed and adapt it to our modern day life. So I'm super stoked to talk through this today because it's going to be fun. I'm going to be looking at my notes a lot. I've got an actual presentation that really sets the stage a lot better than I can ever do it. That's why I like to show these because I'm not a graphics artist, but these tools nowadays are just incredible, where I can explain complex topics and showcase things that it just does a way better job of showcasing it than I can. So hang around. This is going to be an awesome episode. You're going to learn a lot about the thing that God created first, right? Light, and why that's so important to our bodies, because it really, really is. So let me dig in and switch the screens real quick. I'm going to just share my slides. There, my computer. Let's see, that's not working. I am going to present, share screen. I am going to share my entire screen. There we go. Okay, here we are with the God particle of health. And the reason why I called it the God particle of health is, your cells were built to eat light. And the cells of our bodies are so incredibly important, right? That's literally what makes us who we are. And as I was researching about this incredible temple that God gave us, I learned a lot of things about these cells. Our cells are so fascinating that our bodies are made up of electricity, and these cells interact via vibrations, and those vibrations give off a frequency. And then God has done so many things in my life the last 5 or 6 years to teach me about mitochondrial health. Did I know he was teaching me about my health? Heck, no. But it's just really fascinating how he walked me through this, because it has taken me many years to understand it. the first thing that he started off with was nutrition. Right? So when the pandemic hit, that was a really big part of transition in my life. And I started doing a lot of research on all things. I did research on the health. It was like, how do I keep my family safe? Right. That was the thing everybody was asking at the early onset of that. And I went back to my early days of as a youth. I was a runner, and running was very, very important to me. But one of the reasons that I was such a good runner when I was younger, I won all sorts of awards, won a national championship, and got a full ride running scholarship to a Division I school. That was my goal, right? I wanted to be a professional runner. But I attribute to that success to me understanding how to eat well. I know that sounds crazy, but I read a book called Eat to Win. And that book was really important in me understanding that what I put in my body fuels my body. And so when the pandemic hit, that was my first research topic, was how do I take what the nutrients that we have and make sure my immune system and my family's immune system is really, really strong. And so another interesting fact about that is it really took the God's creation of light to wake me up to the corruption that was going on in our healthcare system. So let me explain that real quick, because I think it's an important topic. Is I was doing research on how to keep my family safe, and I was looking and listening to this one all-natural health doctor. He was talking about vitamin D, and I was like, okay, vitamin D, I know is an element that comes from the sun. And he's like, and et cetera. And I was like, well, that seemed like a normal element. And so I'm doing research about it, and then found out that vitamin D is fine. And then it's like, why are they vilifying this doctor? And that got me down the whole rabbit hole of the corruption on our healthcare system. But it's funny to me now that I look back on it, that God was using light, aka without light, we don't get our vitamin D. In fact, we don't even get oxygen as a human being without the sun, right? Without the thing that God created. And so those factors are really, really important. And that's why I'm spending this episode to talk about the God particle of health. And the God particle of health is what he created first, right? It's literally light. And why that's so important. As you saw when I started, the hat that I was wearing is an incredible red light therapy hat. We can talk a little bit about that, but that's not the main point that I wanted to walk through. One of the, as I mentioned at the beginning, right? Your great grandparents healed way faster than you do. It's because they were getting light. And we, as humans today, we're spending up to 20 hours at an average indoors. So the difference wasn't the diet. It was a nutrient you can't eat or drink. It was like literally the sun, right? And our nutrients, our cells are starving of that particular nutrient, because we are over here getting that blue light into our body. So I think that's super, super important. So if you just look at kind of the modern light famine, right? This is how we operate today. And this is why, natural sunlight, we're getting very, very, very little of that. See, this is the average American spends 90% of your life indoors, 90%. And that wasn't the way our ancestors grew up, nor I think how God created our society, is for us to be indoors that much, and then have fake lights, fluorescent lights, be the thing that we're under all the time. And those some of those lights can be bad. But if you just look at it, it's like the artificial lighting and indoor exposure, your brain, you lose cognitive functions, and people are having chronic fatigue. People are getting more joint issues. It's stubborn and localized inflammation, and it's systemic, right? It's disrupted sleep, and and you're just slow to recovery from injury. And that's why we are different than our grandparents. Our grandparents were able to heal much quicker, and they didn't have a lot of these problems that we're having. And you look at this one slide, and then you start realizing, hey, no wonder America is under stress, and chronic disease is going through the roof. It's because we're not getting that God particle that is so important in our lives, as well as we're the light diet deficient, right? So our ancestors were outdoors all the time. They've got it continuously. So not only did they got a whole spectrum of light. So they got the infrared and UV ray lights into the body. And man, we are on the opposite side of that, are just isolated. We're getting that blue light. Like I'm staring at a blue light screen. I've got multiple of these blue lights just shining on my face all day long. What I've actually done, I've installed a red light on top of my monitor, and that red light shines down over the blue light, so it's not as bad. And my beautiful wife bought me these blue light glasses, right? So I can wear these glasses, and it blocks that blue light from entering my body. And so there are tools and things that we can do to help us, and that's why that's why I believe the Lord taught me a lot about mitochondrial health, and He taught me a lot about light. Is that He wants me to help you understand the importance of that and how it can really affect your body and how it can really improve your body. So the other things, our ancestors were anchored to solar dawn to dusk, right? So when the sun went down, they went indoors, and that's when they wound down, and then they woke up when the sun came up. And we just don't do that. That's not what we do, right? We're to have artificial daylight all the way until or artificial light all the way up until we go to bed. And a lot of us are using our phone, right? And we're looking at our phone before anything. And we use our phone right up until we're going to bed. So we're getting these inputs, and we're getting that blue light on our body all the time. So it's really, really bad. And in the past, they had really robust mitochondrial output. And now our cells are starving. And I'm talking starving for that light. So they're starving for the natural light. They're starving from the nutrient deficiencies that we have in our food. And so our cells are under attack. And it's not just the cells in your stomach. It's not just the cells in your head. It's not just the cells in your legs. It's every cell in your body is struggling. So that's why I'm so excited about these red light therapy solutions and mats that you can lay on a mat for 30 minutes, and the mat covers your entire body, and it's recharging the mitochondria. And so that's what's so fun and fascinating is, and it's just doing what our ancestors would do during the day. They would go outside, they would get that light on their bodies, etc. But we in modern society that we're in now, right, we can use our hats, we can use our mats, we can use some tools to help us get through the day to restore mitochondrial health. So I'm super duper excited and stoked about it, right? Let there be light. God's first command, Genesis 1:3, is not poetry. It was really the first commandment of physics. And I want people to understand that. Of course, I am a faithful person, and I rely on that a lot. But at the same point, you have to really logically think about it. Like, that's the first thing He created. There's got to be some importance to that. And so before there were cells to heal, bodies to suffer, or a pharmaceutical industry that even existed, right, the remedy was front loaded in God's literal creation, which I think is fascinating. So the operating instructions He's given us, we've just forgotten about it, and/or our society, the way that we live today, is disrupting that piece for us. So very, very important pieces. So now let's talk a little bit more about the science of these cells and of light. I think it's fascinating. Like these, that's why I love these slides. It's just, I couldn't create an awesome slide like this, but it's really cool. If you look at the Higgs boson thing, in physics, it calls the Higgs boson the God particle because it gives matter their mass, right? That's very, very important. And on the light side, the photon, the true God particle of health, is the photon. That's what I believe. It was the first particle spoken into existence, and the exact particle your biology is built to absorb to create life. And so that photon is just critical, right? That's what God created, and that's what your bodies are made up of. And man, we just are struggling because our bodies are not getting enough of that particular light. So Len, what do you mean by that, right? What does the photon do? And this is really cool example. So that little mitochondria, you've seen this, the makeup of a cell many times in your life, I'm sure. But this is just giving a very microscopic view of that cell. You process 100 to 2,000. You possess 100 to 2,000 mitochondria per cell. So think about that. When I was talking about the cells that we have and how the cells, communicate through vibrations and give off frequencies. Think about that. The mitochondria that's inside the cell, we have 100 to 2,000 of them in each cell, right? So it's just like, holy smokes, lots and lots of mitochondria we have. So if your mitochondria is struggling, that's why a lot of people are having chronic issues today, because of the mitochondrial health of your body. And so that's why I created the light code, right? The light code is the light, frequency, fuel, and faith. And each one of those pillars has to do with this. And so that's why I'm talking about it, because your mitochondria literally is the thing that God has been teaching me about, is how do you help that and help repair it and help get it functional the way it's supposed to be. The ATP production, the energy system within a mitochondria is all done, through these things that I'm discussing. So just super cool. So anyway, the act as the engine converting food and oxygen into that ATP. I'm sure you've heard of ATP before. It's adenosine triphosphate. I probably said that wrong, but I'm not a scientist, right? The fundamental energy and currency of life. So ATP is literally the foundation of life. If without that energy production, we don't. Right? Every heartbeat, blink, even thought requires ATP. So ATP is like critical. And man, if we can help our bodies have better mitochondria, everything's going to start working better. And guess what? God designed this temple so incredibly cool. He designed it to heal itself. And so if we give it the right makeup, the right nutrients, the right particles, the right sun, the right water, and the right nutrients in the body, then your body can start processing it, and your body's going to start healing. That's what I say. It's find so fascinating. So let's see. The next thing is the molecular roadblock. This is where things get bogged down. And if you look at this cytochrome C oxidase, that's the thing that's really fun about red light therapy. Is red light goes in and helps that particular component. That's the name of it. It binds to that enzyme. So the mechanism is, under conditions of chronic stress, aging, or inflammation, nitric oxide binds to that cytochrome C oxidase enzyme. So since it's binding to that enzyme, it's getting stuck. A little beep here was my red light therapy hat going finishing its episode. I didn't finish my episode. I'll have to finish it after the call. But this thing actually I use every day, and it does numbers. I'm not doing it to be vain and to grow hair. This product is really cool in respect that has 3 different levels of frequency. So it's got red light frequency, so it helps the surface of the skin, but then it's got near infrared, which goes in deeper into the skin, but then it's got even a 1080 frequency that goes deep inside the brain, into multiple inches inside the brain. And then it's got the frequency card attached to it. So the frequency is connected to the body as well. So you're getting literally 4 different frequencies in one solution, and the repair from a brain perspective is awesome. So people with really severe head injuries are using it. Just people with brain fog are using it. People that want to grow hair, there's lots of people that are using red light therapy hats to grow hair. I need to obviously use mine more, right? But get a little thin up here. But that's age, right? What 48 does to you. But let's go back to the molecular roadblock, right? So that's the mechanism. The result of these enzymes are clogged down, right? Oxygen is locked out of the final step of that energy production. Right, so we want that ATP to work like crazy. We want lots of ATP, right? We want lots of energy, and this nitric oxide is blocking it. So oxygen can't get into the cell like it's supposed to because it's being blocked, and we don't want that blockage. So how do you get rid of that blockage, right? That's the beautiful thing we're talking about. So how light becomes life. So light literally goes into that nitric oxide and destroys it. I look at this. This graph is awesome. It shows 850 nanometers frequency, and it shows 660. 660 is the red light. 850 is the near infrared light, and those block and destroy the nitric oxide, so your body can produce, and your cytochrome C oxidase produces that ATP that we need. And so the mechanism, photobiomodulation, which is light therapy, and specific light wavelengths are physically absorbed by the enzyme's metallic centers. And the photon's energy shatters that nitric oxide roadblock. So how cool is that? Boom, get rid of that. And boom, it's gone. And the result is the oxygen just floods our system. And ATP production increases by up to 200 to 300% in compromised cells. So think about that. You're exhausted. You don't feel well because, I'm not going to say always, right? But I'm just saying that in general, our population is tired, and they're inflamed, and they're aching, and they have lots of problems. So a lot of our bodies are really struggling with mitochondrial health. And look at this, boom, just by getting the light onto the body and knocking out that nitric oxide, it opens up the oxygen to those cells and to your mitochondria, and starts producing the ATP up to 200 to 300%. So if you use these on a consistent basis, it just recharges your energy system. Like once you start recharging your energy system, it's throughout your entire body, right? So things start working better. That's why I'm so passionate about the light code, right? It's foundational to repairing our bodies. And this is what the Lord taught me through my journey. He's like, go learn about light. First, he said frequencies, right? I don't know the order or why he did it, but it's like frequencies was, I guess nutrition was the first one, right? But then it was frequencies. Dug in and learned a lot about frequencies. And then I dug into molecular hydrogen, and molecular hydrogen is super amazing. Respect what it does. It gets into the bloodstream, and hydrogen is the smallest element that God created. So imagine that. And that's why he wanted me to read the Bible so much and just dig in and start investigating the truth within the Word, because there's so much good information in there, right? But I learned a lot about just the healing properties of nutrients in the Bible, and even the healing leaves, right? You look at Revelations 2:12 or 2:22. I have to remember that one off the top of my head. But the healing leaves of the nations, right, is what he created. And then tree of life. I can talk a lot about stuff like that. But let's get back to mitochondrial health and why I'm so excited about it. That molecular hydrogen component, like I mentioned, is the smallest element, and it gets into the bloodstream. And then when it gets into the bloodstream, it acts as a master antioxidant, and/or some people call it a selective antioxidant. And what that means, it's going to go search and find These zombie cells or sentient cells, as they're called, within the blood, those are the cells that have died off, right? Our cells are just constantly dying off and recharging, and we get new ones, but there's still a lot of junk that's in your bloodstream that shouldn't be there. Those sentient cells and zombie cells, if they gather and they start collecting, guess what? That's bad, right? They start collecting and they gather, and then they can start multiplying, and then it turns into lots of different diseases. And so if you look at the C word, there's lots of that happening in our society. And it's because, I'm not going to say it is because of, but one of the factors of increasing in that is our mitochondrial health is poor. And so that's why I love molecular hydrogen, because it goes in and acts as that selective antioxidant, goes in and it attaches itself to those zombie cells and extracts them from the body. So it's like, yay, you're cleaning out your system, which is awesome. But then the other thing that it does is it helps the mitochondrial process work better. So it's like it helps light. So you combine light with molecular hydrogen, and it's it's an amazing combination, aka the light coat. So super duper psyched about that. So now let's dig into the ATP burst. So this is a little scientific, but I think it is important to actually understand it. So I'm not just telling you something that is a maybe and something that might help you. I'm talking about something that's real and scientific, and there's lots of evidence behind it. And as I was researching all these things, it's like, I need to explain it to people so they could understand it, because I didn't understand it, right? ATP sounded strange. Mitochondria, the process sounded strange. I was like, this just, I wasn't a scientific researcher, and I wasn't very good at science in school. And so I like sports better than that. But this is fascinating when you start learning these things and how they all are put together. So the ATP burst is really fun. You go look at the vasodilation. It's releases the nitric oxide and widens those blood vessels. That's why people take nitric oxide when they want to help people with heart attacks, because they want to expand those blood vessels, right? So those this releases the vasodilation, if I pretend saying that right, releases the nitric oxide, widens the blood vessels, and oxygen-rich blood rushes in, flushing out the inflammatory byproducts. So that's awesome, right? And hormesis is a controlled biological spark that activates the cell's repair pathways, which is the NFKB. So like exercise, a small stressor, so you stress it a little bit and it triggers a response, right? That's why people exercise. Exercise is a lot of work, right? So you think, logically, okay, if you're doing a lot of work, then that would be bad for you and bad for your body. But no, exercise is actually amazing for the body, right? It gives your body a little stress, and then your body reacts to that stress and gets stronger. So the next time you do that stress, your body's a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. So that's what's going on inside our bodies as well. So that's what that hormesis, right? The little exercise, a light stressor triggers a massive adaptive response, which is what we want. So if you look at the mitochondrial biogenesis component, you look at your energy levels way down, and all of a sudden, boom, the pathway signals the cell to physically build brand new mitochondria. So that's awesome, right? It's like, okay, now good, we're doing better. Now let's create new mitochondria, multiplying your total energy capacity. So that's all this stuff is working together. That's how this process goes from light coming in to the body, touching the skin, penetrating the skin, getting inside the cells, right? And then inside the cell into your mitochondria, because it's blocked out or knocked out the nitric oxide, right? And it's allowing oxygen to get into the mitochondria. And then the mitochondria starts doing this, right? Doing the ATP production. And that's what's happening here with the ATP burst. So it's not as complicated as it sounds, but it is actually relatively simple, but it's fascinating. I find it fascinating because you start understanding why things work. And this is all stuff that why I call it the God particle, right? Because it's like, wow, God created light. First thing he did, and boom, what does that help you? And it took me a long time and a lot of research to figure this stuff out. I like this one a lot. This is the clinical proof grid, right? So on the top of this, it says there's a target, there's a mechanism, an outcome, and a source of that. And so if you look at traumatic brain injury, so that's why I started off this episode with a red light therapy hat on, right? So this red light therapy hat is amazing for people with brain issues and injuries, because like I mentioned, it's going not only at the surface of the brain, it's going in deep into the brain. So the mechanism is it's restored cerebral microcirculation, and the outcome is cognitive improvement. So you start thinking better, right? The brain fog goes away. And, there's literally research, scientific studies, the Harvard Medical School, the NASA report in 2014 literally proves this out. Let's talk about another one. Let's talk about Hashimoto's, right? Thyroiditis is reduced autoimmune inflammation. And that one, let's see, turn this thing on. Decreased, the mechanism is reduced autoimmune inflammation. The outcome is decreased medication dependency. So that's awesome, right? If we can reduce our dependency on these meds that people are on, then that's my goal. My goal is to help people get off of pharmaceutical medications. As I was researching about pain, I spent about a year dedicated my life to helping me understand and other people understand how to relieve pain naturally and holistically. So I would interview all these holistic practitioners. It's like, okay, what are you doing for people and how are you helping them relieve pain? And the reason why I was so fascinated with that was because pain is a huge problem in our society. I was doing research, 50% of our seniors have pain or chronic pain. So it's not just, pain once in a while. It's like they wake up and they hurt. And guess what? When you're hurt, you don't want to do things, right? It's not fun. And so I was like, well, that sucks. That means 50% of the people that we know and love, and we are grandmas and grandpas, and now I'm a grandpa, right? It's like 50% of those folks are struggling. So I'm like, how can I help people not struggle? So I spent a year on that. So just the reason why I mentioned that whole issue is during that research as well, I found out that the average senior, again, same folks I was doing research on, was taking 15 different prescription medications in a year. 15 in 1 year. And so you look at the actual side effects of every single drug has a side effect. In fact, you listen to the commercials on TV, they're actually pretty sick. The last 30 seconds of every commercial, if you literally listen to it, it's like, oh yeah, you could lose a limb, you could die, you could have all these issues and problems as a side effect to some of these medications, right? So you start compounding those and you get 15 of them in your body and your body's struggling. So man, I have a really big heart and passion to just help people reduce those medications, because when every medication you can reduce and let God, you do it God's way, it's very, very important. Your body's going to start functioning much more efficiently and effectively, in my opinion. And so that's this is all. I'm not a doctor, right? This is Rob René speaking, but I am excited to try to help people reduce their intake of drugs and pharmaceutical medications, because I know it's better for your health when you're not. So very very fun. So anyway, Hashimoto's, the source behind that is a Hofling scientific report done in 2013, 2018. Let's do the third one, which is a really important one, is wound healing. So the cool thing is you start looking at how these products can help you from where is my, you look at this product is a wand, and this wand is amazing. It is a red light therapy wand for targeted, control. So I can be really close to the problem, and it's not getting everything else because I just maybe have an elbow problem. But the awesome thing about it's a targeted therapy, which is really cool. Now it's a little warm, not hot, but it's warm. I can feel it. But the great thing about that is if I have a wound, just these targeted therapy components help it heal faster because it's accelerating the collagen synthesis, and the outcome is faster tissue closure. In fact, it's really fascinating to me is my father is in Mexico. He's 88, I think. So excuse me, Dad, if I got your age wrong. But he had a foot problem and he had to have surgery on his foot, and his surgery was not closing, and the doctors were having a hard time trying to figure out how to get the skin on his foot to close so it wouldn't get infected. He got it infected a number of times, and it's been an issue. So we got him a red light therapy mat, and he started using that every night. And it's really incredible. I was so excited. I think literally a week or two ago, he mentioned that the actual wound had completely closed. And I was like, yes, right? Because that when it's closed, it's the way God designed the body. So the skin is a very protective component to your body. So I was super excited about that it was able to help my dad. You can just see a lot of the studies, how it's helped people with wound closure. And it's just, there's no doubt about it, right? So you either show with the therapy and without the therapy and see how much faster it heals. So that's pretty fun to see the wound healing. There's a source from that is AVCI from 2013. I'll include these slides in the show notes so you'll have them. So it's just not a fringe therapy, right? The red light component is a NASA funded. That's how photobiomodulation started, was at NASA funding research, and then university replicated mechanism of cellular biology. So that one's really, really, really fun. And then obviously I love to continue to talk about this because it's key, right? Where ancient truth meets future tech. I believe that's why the Lord created me, was to help people understand the future tech, but then also not throwing away the ancient truth. And so I've learned a ton about ancient truth. It was funny, growing up, I was very interested in technology and future things. And everyone was like, I like the latest, cars. I like the latest gadgets. I liked computers. When I, first got a Commodore 64, I thought I was the greatest, right? And I had one of the first PCs that was ever made, and to be able to put into your home. I've been following technology for my entire life, and I love it. Yet he also made me an athlete, right? So I knew, and then that reading a book about nutrition, understanding how the body works. So he kept training me down the path of life. So I believe that's everything that, if I look back at my life now and I see all the things that he taught me and all the trials and tribulations and things that I've gone through in life, I summarize my life as like where ancient truth meets future tech. And if I can help people decipher the future technology stuff, but then also integrating it with the ancient truth, then when we can combine those, that's where synergy happens, right? And so that's what I really want to help people understand. And that's where this all just converges, right? Boom, right? You look at Genesis 1:3, light comes in, boom. And back in the Egyptian days, they had what they called sun healers. And then you do research on Hippocrates, which is really fascinating. And you look at the red light therapy and the studies do early 1903, Niels Finson, you can do some research on him, or Andre Meister in 1967. And then you look at the NASA trials and what they did, and then Harvard clinicals about red light. And you combine these two, it's like, boom, God designed your body to absorb the light and convert it into life, right? So it's taking light and converting it into life. And then modern AI and precision LED technology simply allow us to deliver it perfectly on demand and even in targeted ways. So it's just really fun to see how God created all of these and how we're able to utilize what God created in a modern way, right? That where you can utilize these components to really significantly improve your life and improve the mitochondrial health of your body. So the 3 steps to stop starvation this week. So this is simple, right? Just simple stuff for you to do. So 10 to 20 minutes of unfiltered natural light, right? No glass. So don't take your glasses off. No sunglasses. Sunglasses are another whole story that we can talk about at another time. I do not condone sunglasses, but we can talk about that. But anyway, this is what you're going to do this week, right? 3 steps. 10 to 20 minutes is unfiltered natural light. No glass, no sunglasses within the first hour of waking. That's really important. So the first hour of waking, try to get the 10 to 20 minutes of light. You're waking to anchor your circadian rhythm, because you want to start your circadian rhythm with getting that light. And then that first 45 minutes of sun is called blue light. So there's no UV rays. It's just very, very natural and very, very good for your skin. So try hard to get 10 to 20 minutes of natural light into your body within the first hour. Okay, let's try that. And then the second thing is eliminate overhead fluorescence and harsh green exposure as much as you can during the day, but I know that's impossible, right? So, but if you can really minimize that from 9 p.m. on, it's going to help you a lot. So don't stop your phone, stop your TV, turn off the overhead lights, make them, dim, and try to get your body away from that exposure after 9 p.m. That's going to help set your circadian rhythm. And then when you set your circadian rhythm, your body starts functioning so much better. And then, dust off that old Bible if it's dusty, right? Go dust it off. And then go read Genesis 1:3. And I think it's going to be, you're going to start thinking about what all the things I'm saying, and you're going to look at your skin, you're going to look at the light that God created, and then you're going to start thinking about the mitochondria within your cells and how those mitochondria produce ATP. And if you have the nitric oxide that's plugging up all of your mitochondria throughout your entire body, that's why you're aching, right? That's why you're inflamed. That's why you're tired. That's why you don't sleep well, so on and so forth. And so it's an awesome thing. So just reframe it. And if you go read Genesis 1:3, I think you're going to start thinking about that. Then ask yourself daily, what did God put in light that my body is missing today? And you start thinking about that. And then you're going to start seeing things that you hadn't seen before because you're starting to think about it. So again, super simple steps, 3 things, right, to do. 10 to 20 minutes of sun, right? 9 p.m., start minimizing all external lights, right, as much as you can. And then read the word. Read Genesis 1:3. And I think that I'm excited to get some reports of how you do and how you feel with that. So anyway, obviously all this is for, I have to say this, right? Educational purposes only. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This information is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. The referenced clinical studies are independent, peer-reviewed research demonstrating biological mechanisms, not specific product claims. I'm not claiming this is going to help. I'm not claiming this is going to help. I'm not claiming the mat is going to help. But I just want you to look at the research on those studies. So consult your healthcare provider before beginning any wellness program. And so it's sick that I have to say that, but it is what it is. You were not built to live in a cave. You were built to absorb the light. So you don't live in a cave, right? We put ourselves in our houses and we don't get the light. So let's move from the spark to the fuel. Let's get the fuel. We will examine the smallest molecule God created, the one that easily crosses the blood-brain barrier. And then rock Kazakh, be strong and courageous. Rock Kazakh is one of my favorite verses in Joshua 1:9. And so that's a Hebrew word for be strong, rock Kazakh. So with that, believe, biohack, and become. Remember, if you have air in your lungs today, God has a plan for your life. Believe, biohack, become.
Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Join the community and get the show notes at Biohackingville. Follow us on all social media platforms at Biohackingville. Until next time, believe, biohack, become.